I always thought the end of a marriage would come with screaming accusations, maybe even tears. I thought it would be loud, chaotic, something you could prepare for. But when the moment came, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask questions. I didn't fight. I just walked away. And now, she's searching for me, drowning in regret, reaching for something that no longer exists. Let me take you back to the night everything changed. A stranger in my own home. The air in our house had been different for months. It's hard to explain unless you've felt it, like stepping into a room that looks the same but feels wrong, as if the walls are holding secrets. I didn't want to believe it at first. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it was just me. But that night when I opened the front door, I knew. The house was dimly lit, the glow from the kitchen casting long shadows. I could hear soft laughter. Not just any laughter, but hers. The kind I hadn't heard in years, the kind that used to be just for me. I followed the sound, my heart beat heavy in my chest, and then I saw it. She was sitting at the kitchen table, her phone in her hand, smiling in a way she hadn't smiled at me in a long time. That was my first warning. But it was the way she looked at the screen, the way her fingers traced over it, that sent ice through my veins. I don't know how long I stood there before she noticed me, but when she did, I saw it. The flicker of panic before she forced on a neutral expression. "Hey," she said, slipping her phone face down on the table. "You're home early." I wasn't. I set my keys down, keeping my voice even. "Who are you talking to?" A hesitation. Small, barely noticeable, but I caught it. "No one. Just a friend." And that was the first real lie. The slow collapse. I wanted to believe her. Maybe if I had come home a year earlier, I would have. But I had already spent too many nights feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. Too many moments catching glimpses of something just beyond my reach. Texts she didn't answer around me. Late-night showers that lasted too long. The way she started sleeping facing away from me. I wasn't paranoid. I was watching it happen in real time. That night, I didn't push. I didn't ask again. Instead, I started paying attention. And the more I saw, the more I realized I had already lost her. She just hadn't told me yet. The breaking point, the moment of truth, didn't come with a grand confession. There was no caught in the act explosion. It was small, quiet. I was leaving for work one morning when I forgot my wallet. I stepped back inside, moving toward the kitchen where I had left it on the counter. And that's when I heard her voice, soft, urgent. "I miss you too." The words were barely above a whisper, but they stopped me cold. She wasn't talking to me. She didn't see me at first. She was too focused on the phone pressed against her ear, her fingers idly toying with her wedding ring, turning it, twisting it like she wasn't sure whether to take it off. "I know," she continued, voice low. "I wish last night didn't have to end either. I don't remember grabbing my wallet. I don't remember walking back out the door. I just remember the silence. The kind that wraps around you when you finally understand that the person you love is already gone. I didn't confront her. I didn't call her out. I just left. Now she's drowning in regret. That was 3 months ago. I disappeared that day, not in the literal sense, but in the way that mattered. I stopped trying. I stopped caring. And 1 week later, I packed a bag and walked away without a word. She's been trying to find me ever since. The calls started first, then the texts, then emails, messages through old friends. I haven't answered a single one. And now, I hear she's unraveling, crying to anyone who will listen, searching for me like she's lost something precious. But here's the truth. I didn't disappear. She did. And I'm finally starting to live again. I remember the exact moment I decided I was done. It wasn't a single, grand betrayal, not the kind of thing you see in movies where a husband walks in to find his wife in bed with another man. No, my story was quieter, more insidious. It was the accumulation of 1,000 little betrayals, each one stacking up until I could barely breathe under the weight of them. I didn't leave because of one moment. I left because of years of moments that chipped away at me until there was nothing left to hold on to. The day after I overheard her whispering on the phone, I went to work like nothing had happened. I sat through meetings, answered emails, and smiled at people in the hallway. But inside I felt hollow, numb. I barely heard a word anyone said. My mind kept replaying her voice in my head. I wish last night didn't have to end either. I wanted to tell myself that maybe I had misheard, that maybe she was talking to a friend. Maybe, just maybe, I was overreacting. But deep down, I knew better. I knew that a faithful wife doesn't whisper like that. She doesn't say things like that. She doesn't sound guilty. I didn't confront her that night or the next. Instead, I did something I never thought I would do. I started watching her. Not in a possessive, controlling way, but in the way a man does when he realizes he might be sharing his life with a stranger. She started dressing differently, not drastically, but enough for me to notice. She'd always been beautiful, but suddenly she was putting in extra effort, wearing perfume just to run errands, taking longer to get ready for the gym, checking her phone constantly, then flipping it over as soon as I walked into the room. But the worst part? She stopped looking at me. There's something about a woman's gaze when she loves you. Even after years together, you catch little moments, her eyes softening when she sees you after a long day, the way she lingers just a little longer when she thinks you're not looking. But that was gone. She looked at me the way you look at a coworker you barely know. Polite, empty. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. I had been playing along, acting like nothing was wrong. But inside, I was already making plans, figuring out what I needed to do. Then one evening, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she took a shower. Normally, she never left it unattended, but this time, she did. And it lit up with a message that made my blood run cold. I can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. I stared at the words, my hands tightening into fists at my sides. There it was, the confirmation I had been dreading. No more doubts, no more second-guessing. I heard the water stop upstairs, heard her humming to herself as she grabbed a towel. And in that moment, something inside me just shut off. I didn't storm upstairs. I didn't demand answers. I didn't even touch her phone. Instead, I walked to our bedroom, opened my closet, and pulled out a suitcase. I packed calmly, methodically. I didn't take everything, just the essentials. Enough clothes for a while, my passport, a few personal things. By the time she came downstairs, I was already at the door. She froze, still drying her hair, her expression twisting into confusion. Where are you going? I looked at her, really looked at her, for what felt like the first time in years. And all I saw was a woman I no longer recognized. I took a deep breath and said the only thing that felt right. I'm done. She blinked. What? I know, I said simply. I know everything. I expected her to deny it, to lie, to scramble for an excuse. But she didn't. She just stood there, her face paling, her mouth opening and closing like she was struggling to find words. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. And then, her voice barely above a whisper, she said, "Please don't go." But I didn't answer. I just walked away. That was 3 months ago. Since then, she's been trying to find me. She started with texts, then calls, then messages through mutual friends. At first, they were angry, accusing, "You don't just leave like that. We need to talk." But when I didn't respond, they changed. "I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. Please, I need to see you. I don't know how to fix this, but I'll do anything." But I don't believe her. I don't think she's sorry for what she did. She's sorry for what she lost, for what she threw away. And now I'm the one she can't replace. But I'm not coming back. I walked away in silence. And that silence? It's louder than any words she could ever say. I never imagined how powerful silence could be, how it could consume someone, drive them to the brink, make them desperate for a single response, a single word. I used to think that when relationships end, the pain comes from the shouting, the accusations, the bitter fights. But I was wrong. It's the absence that hurts the most. She's drowning in it now. I disappeared from her world without a sound. And now she's clawing at the empty spaces I left behind, trying to find me, trying to bring me back. But there's nothing left to bring back. The man she once knew, the one who believed in her, trusted her, loved her, that man is gone. But it didn't happen overnight. And if I'm honest, I don't think she ever thought I'd leave at all. After I walked out that night, I expected to feel something. Anger, grief, maybe even relief. But mostly I felt empty. I drove for hours, not even knowing where I was going. I ignored my phone as the notifications started piling up. The calls, the texts. At first I thought I might stop somewhere. A motel, a friend's place, but I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to explain, so I just drove. It wasn't until I hit the next state line that I finally pulled over at a rest stop, turned off the car, and just sat there, staring at nothing. My hand still gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. She had betrayed me, lied to me, and yet, I still felt this sick, nagging instinct to forgive her, to turn back, to give her a chance to explain. And that's when I realized how deep her hooks had sunk into me. I wasn't just walking away from her. I was walking away from the version of myself who had spent years making excuses for things that didn't sit right, the gut feelings I had ignored, the little moments that should have made me stop and think. But instead, I had pushed them down, buried them under trust and love. I was mourning the part of me that still wanted to believe in her. The first night away was the hardest. I checked into a small roadside motel under a name that wasn't mine. I turned off my phone completely, resisting the urge to read her messages, to hear her voice. I told myself I'd sleep, but of course I didn't. My mind wouldn't let me. I kept replaying everything. The way she had looked at me when I said, "I know everything," like a child caught stealing. Not truly sorry, just afraid of the consequences. And I realized something in that moment. She hadn't lost me that night. She had lost me months ago. She just didn't realize it. She had been drifting away, little by little pushing me further without even noticing. And I had let her. I had been so wrapped up in loving her, in wanting our marriage to work, that I ignored the fact that I was the only one still fighting for it. She had checked out long before I ever walked out that door. When I woke up the next morning, if you could even call it waking up, since I barely slept, I finally turned my phone back on. I expected missed calls, messages, and I was right. But what I didn't expect was how quickly she had shifted gears. At first, the messages were panicked. "Please talk to me. I didn't mean for this to happen. Just tell me where you are. I need to see you." But when I didn't respond, they changed. The next wave of texts was angry. "You're really going to throw everything away over this? You're acting like a child. Fine. Be a coward." I almost laughed at that one. Coward? I had stayed silent while she had ripped apart our marriage piece by piece. I had spent months, years, pushing down every doubt, every suspicion, every ache in my chest when she pulled away from me. I had fought for her long after she had stopped fighting for me. And yet I was the coward. No, I was just done. I didn't respond. I didn't give her the fight she wanted. And as the days passed, the messages kept coming, shifting between regret and blame, apologies and anger. She was unraveling, realizing that I wasn't coming back. And I think that terrified her more than anything. It's been 3 months now. I have a new apartment, a new city, a new life. It's quiet, but it's mine. I don't look over my shoulder anymore. Don't check my phone expecting another message from her. I don't wake up in the middle of the night reaching for someone who isn't there. But I know she's still looking for me. Friends have told me she's been asking around, trying to figure out where I went. She's still sending emails, still reaching out to people from my past, hoping for some kind of closure. But she won't find me, because the truth is, she didn't just lose me when I walked out that night. She lost me the moment she decided I wasn't enough. And now she's drowning in the regret of realizing that I was. I never realized how much of myself I had given away until I finally left. It wasn't just about walking out that night. It was about all the pieces of me I had let her take over the years. My trust, my patience, my ability to forgive even when I shouldn't have. And yet, for all the silence I've given her since I left, it's her screams that echo now. She's been searching for me, calling old friends, digging through memories, retracing her steps, trying to figure out where she went wrong. She doesn't understand that she didn't just lose me when I packed my bags. She lost me long before that. The day after I left, I found myself sitting in a small coffee shop 2 towns over, staring at a cup of black coffee that had long since gone cold. I had no idea where I was going, no plan, just an overwhelming need to be anywhere but there. The reality of what I had done hadn't hit me yet. It felt like I had stepped outside of my own life, watching from a distance as someone else lived it. A man sat down at the table next to me, older, maybe in his 60s. He was reading a newspaper. Who even still does that? But I envied him, this stranger with his routine, his ordinary day. I wondered if he had ever sat where I was now, feeling like the ground had just disappeared beneath his feet. I didn't realize I was staring until he looked up and gave me a knowing nod. "Rough morning?" he asked. I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. Something like that. He studied me for a moment, then gestured to my untouched coffee. "You look like a man who just lost something important." I exhaled, shaking my head. "I think I just lost something that was already gone." He didn't ask for details, didn't press, just nodded again like he understood more than I had said. And maybe he did, because for the first time I realized I wasn't sad. I wasn't devastated. I wasn't broken. I was just free. But she wasn't. Over the next few days, my phone became a landmine of unread messages. First, I ignored them all. Then, out of curiosity or maybe weakness, I opened one. "I don't know where you are, but I need to talk to you. Please." I stared at the words for a long time, but they meant nothing to me now. I pictured her sitting in our empty house, staring at her phone the way I had once stared at her, waiting for a sign that she still cared. But unlike me, she had made her choice. She had just never expected me to make one, too. A few days later, a mutual friend texted me, "She's losing it, man. She thought you'd come back by now. I don't think she knows what to do with herself." I didn't respond. What was there to say? That this was exactly why I had left? That she had never considered the possibility of me leaving? I think part of her always believed I would stay, that no matter what, I would be there, that my love was an unbreakable safety net she could keep falling into. But the thing about safety nets? Eventually, if you take them for granted, they disappear. And now she was falling with nothing to catch her. I started over. A new town, a small apartment, a job that didn't require me to sit in the same office where I had once planned a future with a woman who never planned one with me. At first, I thought I'd feel lost, but the truth? I had never felt more found. I took up running again, something I had given up when our life got too busy. I cooked meals for myself instead of eating whatever takeout she had brought home. I spent weekends reading instead of waiting for her to finish working late. I was me again. And yet, she still hadn't figured out how to be without me. Another text came a few weeks later. "I miss you. Can we talk for a second? Just a second." I almost responded, not because I wanted to go back, but because I wanted to hear it. The regret, the realization, the understanding that she had thrown away something she could never get back. But I didn't need to hear it. I already knew, because the silence between us was saying everything. 3 months turned into 6. The text slowed down. The calls stopped. I heard from a friend that she had tried dating someone new, but it didn't last. "She wasn't the same," he'd said. "She had changed." No, she hadn't changed. She had just finally felt what I had been feeling all those years. Loneliness, emptiness, the crushing weight of knowing you let something good slip through your fingers. And unlike me, she didn't know how to start over. It's been nearly a year now. I don't know where she is, and for the first time, I don't care. I used to wonder how she could look me in the eyes while she was lying to me, how she could smile at me while she was giving herself to someone else. I used to question whether I had been enough. But now I see the truth. I was too much for someone who didn't deserve me, and she was never enough for the man I've become. I always thought heartbreak would feel like a physical wound, sharp, unbearable, impossible to ignore. But in reality, it wasn't a single, devastating blow. It was a slow unraveling, a quiet suffocation, a steady, gnawing realization that the person you had built your world around was never really there with you. I don't think I truly understood that until I was already gone. The first time I saw my reflection after leaving, I barely recognized myself. I was standing in the tiny bathroom of a roadside motel, staring into a mirror that was smudged with water stains and years of careless cleaning. My face looked hollow, my eyes tired, but there was something else there, too. Something new or maybe something old. A part of me that had been buried beneath years of compromise, of looking the other way, of convincing myself that love meant enduring whatever was thrown at me. But now, there was a flicker of something unfamiliar. Relief. Startled me. Shouldn't I be grieving? Shouldn't I be breaking apart? I had just walked away from a marriage, from a woman I had once planned a future with. And yet, standing in that damned, run-down bathroom, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom. I stepped back, gripping the edge of the sink, breathing in deeply. It felt like I had been holding my breath for years, and only now, in this moment, I was finally letting it out. That's when my phone buzzed. I knew it was her before I even looked. For a second, I almost didn't check. But curiosity, weakness, won out. I grabbed my phone off the counter and stared at the screen. 24 missed calls. The latest text read, "Lol, please. I need to talk to you." I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening around the phone. The old version of me, the one who would have done anything to fix things, to find a way to make it work, he would have answered. He would have listened to whatever half-hearted apology she had come up with, let her twist the narrative, let her convince him that it was all just a misunderstanding. But that man didn't exist anymore. I locked the phone and set it down. I don't think she expected me to stay silent. At first, I'm sure she thought I was just being dramatic, that I would cool off, come home, that we would sit down and talk like we always did. Meaning she would cry, I would cave, and nothing would really change. But I didn't come home. And that's when the desperation started. Friends began reaching out. People I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had reasons to check in. "Hey man, I ran into Ellie the other day. She looked wrecked. What's going on? Dude, she's been asking about you. She's losing it. I don't know what happened, but she keeps saying she needs to explain." I ignored them all. She wasn't sorry. She was panicking. There's a difference. She wasn't mourning me. She was mourning the idea of me. The safety net, the guarantee that no matter how many times she pulled away, no matter how much she took me for granted, I would always be there. But the truth is, she had been living without me for a long time. She just hadn't realized it until I was the one who left first. Months passed. The texts became less frequent, then stopped altogether. The calls dwindled, then went silent. At some point, I think she accepted it, understood that I wasn't coming back. Or so I thought. Because one day, out of nowhere, I got an email. The subject line was empty. I hesitated before opening it, my stomach twisting with something I couldn't name. Inside, there was just one sentence. "I don't know how to live with what I did." I stared at it for a long time, waiting for something. Anger, satisfaction, closure. But I felt nothing. She was unraveling, drowning in the consequences of her own actions. She wanted absolution. She wanted me to tell her it was okay. But it wasn't, and it never would be. I closed my laptop. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. She was lost now, but I was finally free. I used to think that when a relationship ends, there's always a final moment, something definitive. A slamming door, a fight that can't be taken back, a single explosive event that marks the point of no return. But I've come to realize that some endings are quieter. They happen long before anyone says the words out loud. By the time I left, I had already been gone for a long time. Maybe that's why it didn't hit me right away, why I didn't feel that sudden rush of pain or grief. Because the version of me that loved her, that believed in her, had been dying for years, chipped away by small betrayals and quiet disappointments. I was just the last one to figure it out. But she's only realizing it now. The days after her last email were strange. I kept expecting another message, another attempt to reach me. But there was nothing. Silence. And I think that's what made me uneasy, because I knew her. Ellie wasn't the type to just let things go. If she wasn't calling, if she wasn't begging, if she wasn't still trying to control the situation in some way, then she had to be planning something. And I wasn't wrong. I was sitting in my apartment one evening, drinking coffee that had gone cold hours ago, when my phone vibrated with a text from an old friend, Devin. We hadn't talked much since I left town, mostly because I had distanced myself from anyone connected to my old life. But for some reason, seeing his name made my stomach twist. "Dude, she's looking for you." I didn't respond. I just stared at the screen, jaw tightening. A minute later, another message came through. "She showed up at my place, asking where you were. Said she just needed to talk to you one last time." I sighed, rubbing a hand over my face. I should have seen this coming. She wasn't letting go, not because she wanted me back, but because she wanted to be the one who decided when it was over. That was how she worked. Always in control, always the one setting the rules. But this time, she didn't get to decide. I typed out a quick response. "I don't care. Don't tell her anything." He answered almost immediately. "Man, I wouldn't. Just thought you should know." She looked bad. Like, really bad. I stared at the message for a long time before locking my phone and setting it down. I knew what he was doing. He wanted me to feel something. Guilt, pity, regret. He wanted me to wonder if I should give her closure, if I should let her say whatever it was she needed to say. But I wouldn't, because I had needed closure for years, and she had never once cared about that. A week passed, then another. I started to think that maybe she had given up, that maybe she had finally realized that some things aren't fixable, that I had become nothing more than a ghost to her, someone she would only remember when the weight of her regret became too much to bear. And then, one morning, I opened my door, and there she was. I froze for a second. Neither of us spoke. We just stared at each other, the silence between us stretching, thick and suffocating. She looked different, thinner, like she hadn't been sleeping. Her eyes, once bright and full of life, were shadowed, her face pale. I should have felt something. Anger, sadness, vindication. But all I felt was nothing. "Lol," she whispered, her voice barely there. "Please." I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening on the edge of the door. "What are you doing here, Ellie?" Her throat bobbed. She looked at me like she was searching for something. Some trace of the man who used to love her. The man who would have let her inside without hesitation. But that man was gone. She swallowed, wrapping her arms around herself. "I needed to see you. I needed to explain." I let out a hollow laugh. "Explain?" She flinched. "I know I don't deserve it. I know I—" Her voice cracked, and she took a shaky breath. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know that I—" I shook my head, cutting her off. "Ellie." She looked up at me, hope flickering in her tired eyes. "I don't care." Her breath hitched. "What?" "I don't care why you did it," I said, my voice steady. "I don't care how sorry you are. I don't care what you regret." I exhaled, running a hand through my hair. "I needed to hear all of that a year ago, maybe even two. But you never cared then. So why should I care now?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. And in that moment, I saw it. The realization, the understanding that this time she couldn't fix it, that there was no grand speech that would undo everything, that I wasn't going to let her have this moment. She had always been able to win me back before, but now there was nothing left to win. Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't move. I just stood there, watching as she crumbled under the weight of everything she had done. I had spent years drowning in that pain, waiting for her to notice. And now it was her turn. Slowly, I stepped back and closed the door. I didn't wait for her to leave. I didn't stand by the window to see if she stayed there, hoping I would come back. Because I wouldn't. Not now. Not ever. The sound of the door closing behind me should have been final. It should have marked the end. The moment she realized that there was no more room for her in my life. And yet, as I stood there, staring at the wood grain, I could still feel her presence on the other side. I don't know how long she stayed. Maybe minutes, maybe an hour. I didn't check. I refused to stand at the window and watch her. Refused to let myself be caught in the gravity of her regret. I had spent too much time waiting for her to realize what she had. For her to look at me the way she was probably looking at that closed door now, with desperation, with the kind of pain that doesn't have an easy fix. But it was too late. For months, I had been the one drowning, and now she was gasping for air. I sat on the couch, staring at my phone. There was a part of me, buried deep under all the hurt, that wanted to check if she had called someone, if she had left another message. But I didn't. Instead, I let the silence stretch. And then, as if the universe had some twisted sense of humor, my phone buzzed. I exhaled through my nose, picking it up with more force than necessary. For a moment, I thought it would be another message from Ellie. But it wasn't. It was Devon, the same friend who had warned me that she was looking for me, the same friend who, despite everything, had stayed neutral through it all. I heard she showed up at your place. Of course he knew. News like that traveled fast, especially in our small circle. I hesitated, then typed back. Yeah, didn't let her in. His reply came almost instantly. Good. But just so you know, she's still not giving up. I stared at the screen, my jaw tightening. What do you mean? I mean, she's planning something. I don't know what, but she said she has to make things right. I figured you should know. I ran a hand down my face. Damn it, Ellie. She never knew when to quit. The next morning, I went about my day as usual. I made coffee, sat by the window, and let the morning sun spill into my apartment. For the first time in a long time, I felt settled. Not happy, not completely at peace, but on my way there. And then, just as I was about to leave for work, there was a knock at my door. For a split second, my stomach dropped. I knew that knock. Slow, hesitant. I sighed. Ellie, go home. A pause, then, please lol. Just hear me out. I closed my eyes, counting to 5. I already did. You just didn't like my answer. She let out a shaky breath. I wrote you a letter. I frowned. A letter? She sniffed. I know you won't listen to me, but maybe you'll read this. Please just take it. I should have said no. I should have walked away. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. I opened the door just enough to see her, just enough to take the folded paper she was holding out. Her hands were trembling. I didn't say a word. I just took it and closed the door again. I heard her exhale on the other side, and then, after a moment, footsteps retreating. I didn't read it right away. I placed it on the counter and went about my day, refusing to let her drag me back into whatever guilt-ridden spot she was drowning in. But by the time the sun had started to set, the weight of it was impossible to ignore. So finally I unfolded it. Her handwriting was messier than usual, like she had written it in a hurry. Lol. I know I don't deserve your time. I know you don't owe me anything. But if you read nothing else, please read this. I never stopped loving you. I scoffed. Too little, too late. I kept reading. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to respond. But I need you to understand why I did what I did. Not as an excuse, there is no excuse, but because I can't live with you thinking I never cared. You were always so good to me, too good, and I was selfish. I was stupid. I let my fears and insecurities ruin the best thing that ever happened to me. And when I realized what I had done, it was too late. You had already gone silent, already disappeared, and I don't know how to live in this silence, lol. I don't know how to exist in a world where you don't care anymore. I know I hurt you, and I will never forgive myself for it. But if there is even the smallest part of you that still believes I ever loved you, then please, just tell me that. Tell me I wasn't imagining it. Tell me I didn't completely destroy something real. Because if I did, I don't know how to move forward. I finished reading and let out a slow breath, setting the paper down. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at nothing, waiting for some kind of reaction. But there was nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret. Nothing. I had moved on, and she was still stuck in the past, trying to reach for something that no longer existed. I picked up my phone, opened her contact, and typed out the only response she would ever get from me. You weren't imagining it, but you lost it. Then I blocked her number. For the first time in years, I felt free. And I knew, finally, that freedom was forever. The moment I hit block, I felt lighter, like a chain that had been wrapped around my chest had finally snapped. No more waiting, no more wondering, no more giving her space in my life that she had long since lost the right to occupy. And yet, I knew this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me. For the longest time, I had been stuck in a cycle, replaying the past, trying to understand how we had gone from everything to nothing. But the truth was, there was no single moment, No clear breaking point. She hadn't woken up one day and decided to betray me. It had been a slow erosion, a million small choices, each one pulling her further away from the woman I thought I knew, until the person she had become was nothing more than a stranger wearing my wife's face. And now I was finally ready to let that stranger go. The next morning, I woke up feeling different. Lighter, clearer. For the first time in a long time, I didn't check my phone first thing. I didn't wake up with a tightness in my chest, wondering what kind of message might be waiting for me, because it didn't matter anymore. I had chosen myself, and that choice was final. Weeks passed, then months. I got used to my new life, my new routines. I stopped thinking about her, and slowly, I started living again. It wasn't some dramatic transformation. There was no overnight epiphany, just small moments of clarity. Days where I didn't think about the past at all. Mornings where I drank my coffee and actually tasted it, rather than just using it to keep myself running. Evenings where I walked through my apartment and didn't feel like I was missing something. Because I wasn't. I had everything I needed. And she had nothing but regret. I ran into Devin at a coffee shop one afternoon. We hadn't talked much since everything happened, mostly because I had been distancing myself from anyone who still had a connection to my old life. But when I saw him sitting there, scrolling through his phone, I hesitated for only a second before walking over. He looked up, surprised. "Lol." I nodded. "Hey." He gestured to the seat across from him. "Join me." I debated it, then sat down. We made small talk for a while, work, life, the usual. But I knew the real topic was hanging there, waiting to be addressed. And finally, he sighed. "You know she's still looking for you, right?" I didn't react. I just took a sip of my coffee. "Let her." Devin studied me for a moment like he was waiting for something, some sign that I cared, that I was still haunted by it. But I wasn't. "She's a mess, man," he finally said. "It's actually kind of sad. She told me the other day that she wakes up every morning expecting to see a text from you." I set my cup down, exhaling slowly. "She'll have to get used to disappointment." Devin shook his head. "I don't think she will." And maybe that was true. Maybe Ellie would never let it go. Maybe she'd spend the rest of her life searching for a way to undo what she had done, waiting for an answer that would never come. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I stood up, grabbing my coat. "Take care, Devin." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "You too, man." I walked out of that coffee shop and never looked back. I didn't check my phone. I didn't think about her. I just walked forward. Because my story didn't end with her regret. It began with my freedom.